Today I'm going to be showing you the differences between contrast paints and oil washes, breaking down the pros and cons of each, and then showing you exactly how to make your own oil wash. Contrast paints are Games Workshop's specially formulated paint and shade in one. They tint the base colour while pooling in recesses for shading. Oil washes, on the other hand, are made by thinning oil paints with mineral spirits, creating a smooth, controllable wash that can be easily cleaned up. Let's start with the contrast paints first. I'm going to paint half of this Citadel Agrex Earth shade and the other half will be a homemade brown oil wash, and then we can compare. In this first triangle, I will simply coat the whole triangle in the contrast paint. Then for this one, I will focus on only getting the contrast paint in the recesses, and for the final side, I will do only one thin coat of the contrast paint. Now I repeat the same for the oil wash triangles, starting with the whole coat, then focusing on only the recesses, and finally the one thin coat. So while I paint those up, let's talk a bit about the pros and cons. Contrast paints are super easy to use, you just slap it on. There's no mixing required and they're ready straight out the pot. It's great for tabletop quality paint jobs. They're water-based, so there's no harsh fumes or solvents. On the other hand, there is less control over how it flows. It can leave blotchy or coffee stain-like effects on flat surfaces, and there's limited colour options compared to mixing your own oil washes. It also dries really fast, so mistakes are harder to fix. On the other hand, looking at oil washes, they're incredibly smooth and there's no blotching. There's a long working time, so you can wipe off excess even hours later. It can be mixed to any colour you want. It's perfect for panel lining and deep recess shading and really easily flows into cracks. On the other hand, it does require mineral spirits, which is a strong smell and it's not particularly good to breathe in, so you need to make sure you have good ventilation. It does have a longer drying time, usually between 12 to 24 hours, and there is slightly more setup and cleanup involved than contrast paints. So now while these all dry, I will show you how to make your own oil wash. I keep all my oil washes in old jars and I use my label maker to label the colours, as they all look very similar shades when they're in larger quantities. You'll need an odourless mineral spirit or paint thinner. The fumes are harmful, so make sure you keep the room well ventilated and also opt to use a mask if possible. And you'll also need an oil paint. You can mix different colours together if you want a specific shade, or I just go for the Winsor and Newton oil paints. Any cheap oil paint will work fine for this. You can add as little or as much of the oil paint as you want to the spirit, depending on how diluted you want the result to be. I tend to go for a consistency of melted ice cream. And just remember to give the jar a good shake before use. And that's it. Once it dries, you can seal it with a varnish or something similar and then move on to your final highlights. Okay, now the roof is all dried, let's do a little cleanup. For this I use cotton earbuds and some tissues. Here is how the oil wash tiles look before we clean them up. And here is how the contrast paint side looks. This has now fully dried, however, which means we will no longer be able to clean it up or make any changes. So to clean up the oil wash side, you just need to add some of the spirit to reactivate the paint, and then you can run the tissue and earbud over the areas where you want to remove the paint. And this is what it looks like after cleanup. First, we'll look at the full coverage comparisons. You can see on the oil wash side that the oil wash has more evenly distributed, where the contrast paint has pulled a lot towards the bottom. You can also see what is referred to here as the coffee stains, where the contrast paint has stained the raised areas also. Now looking at comparing the single coat options. For this, you can see on the oil wash side, you can easily remove the paint from the raised areas where you want to add your highlights, and for comparison on the contrast paint side, you do have less control here where the paint has dried and ended up. And finally, comparing the recess only tiles. For this, you can see that it looks a lot messier on the contrast paint side, whereas on the oil wash side, because you have the opportunity to do the cleanup, it comes out with a much more clean look. So which one should you use? If you want speed and simplicity, contrast paints are fantastic. But if you want ultra smooth blends and total control, oil washes are the way to go. Personally, I love both for different projects, but I tend to lean towards oil washes, especially for larger projects, as they're much cheaper to make in large quantities. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked this video, and I'll see you in the next one.